That's just the surface temperature. Below that, where your toes are touching, it's more around 4 degrees Celsius. So if you're in these waters for a little bit too long, there is the chances of hypothermia within 10 to 15 minutes. So that's why we also provide a dry evacuation just in case. So if you ever go to the back deck or when you're disembarking at Spirit Island, you might notice that white canister. That is our life raft. It can hold up to 75 people. So we only have, I think it was like 22 or something, 23. So plenty to like distance if need be, but you're in great hands. Over the 93 years of operation, we've actually never had to use any of this life saving equipment besides training purposes. Still knock on some wood. That life raft is not 93 years old. We get inspected every 2 years. That's it for safety equipment, but just general information. So you might be noticing that we're speeding up right now. So we were just in an area called Home Bay. It's a speed restricted area. A lot of beginner kayakers and canoeists. At full speed, our waves get around a meter high, so we could potentially overturn those vessels. So we go slow in here. But throughout the cruise, if you notice the boat slowing down at all, it's just our captain here, Becca. She's just being really courteous to these smaller vessels if they're close by. She'll just kill her wake, slowly pass them, and then speed back up again. And then in terms of our sister boats, similar boats to the ones we're in, we're not as courteous because they can handle our waves. So we're going to go over their waves at full speed. They will do the same. It's just going to be a bit of a bump. On this boat itself, it's actually really good at cutting through those waves, so we'll barely feel it. But I'll still give you guys a nice little verbal warning. I will say wake crossing. So if you happen to be standing, just secure yourself 3 points of contact, 2 feet on the ground, hand either on the seat in front or behind you. But if you're on that back deck, there is no speaker system. So just keep an eye out. If you see that sister vessel, just hold on to the railing and enjoy the ride. We always cross port to port being our left-hand side. Now, in terms of the back deck, we like to limit it to around 10 passengers, so be courteous to the other passengers on board. If you've been out there for quite some time, just come back inside. Also, there's plenty of space on board. There's plenty of empty seats. If you happen to see something on the other side, feel free to switch seats if you like. But I tend to tell people to stay on the same side when we come back because where we go out, we come back the same way. So if you miss something on one side, you'll see it on the way back. Also, feel free to open and close those windows. Just make sure the person behind you is still smiling. And that is it for safety. Does everyone feel safe?
Yeah.
Nice. So the back deck is now open for business. Feel free to utilize it from this point onwards. It's just when we're docking, I'll bring you guys back inside. I'll let you guys readjust, and then I'll start things off. But for now, just taking some of the views and get cozy.
Yeah, no, this is we're good with this. Oh, is this yours?
What?
Is this yours?
What? No. That's
Okay.
a guest.
Okay, I was like waving to it. I was like, oh, what did this get here?
Yeah.
So basically, I can go out, right?
Oh yeah, go for it.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so also, I just want to make note that if you guys have any questions throughout the cruise, feel free to ask at any point. Feel free to just raise your hand.
Free mist.
Chapter 1, there is nothing from this point onwards. Yeah, you're in Jasper now. Now, it is quite rugged out here. You can look at the terrain. It is still September, and we have snow out here. Like I mentioned earlier, it's not
It's a little bit
surprising.
misty.
It's mainly just due to our elevation. So we're cruising at around 1,700 meters above sea level. You guys gained around 700 meters coming from Jasper. It's situated at around 1,000. On average, for every 100 meters you climb, you typically lose around 1 degree Celsius. So from Jasper to here, around 7 degrees, but from Jasper to some of these peaks surrounding us, it's around 20 degrees colder. So it's not surprising just yesterday it was rainy, but it was snowing up on top of these mountains. Now, due to these various elevation difference and these temperatures, We have a very short growing season out here. That's why whenever you go onto a trail, you might see those signs that says please stay on the trail. Because if you happen to walk off the trail, that pretty much takes out like years of work on those vegetation. Our growing season is only around 2 to 3 months of the year. Now, just to kind of, I guess, add to that, you guys would have seen a burn scar on the way up here. Does everyone remember that large, oh, well, it used to be a large body of water. Now it kind of looks a little bit barren and empty. That is Medicine Lake. Now, it's also known as the Disappearing Lake. So it drains via this underground tunnel system. So think of it as like a bathtub. It can drain only so much water out. At the start of the season, we have so much melt off, so much snow on top of our mountains. It's barreling in, and that becomes a 16-meter deep lake in springtime for it. So when you guys are driving back to Jasper, at the lookout, there's like a stairwell. Just this year, it got up to the 3rd step in terms of the height of that water. And then this time of year, we don't have as much melt off, so it dwindles down to these braided streams. Now, there was a forest fire there in 2015. Some of you guys might have thought it was quite recent, it looks quite fresh, maybe it happened this year or last year. But that was like 6 years ago. So again, the vegetation, it takes a very long time to grow. We'll see another burn scar. Some of you guys might have already seen it on the way out. I'll point it on the way back. It was just over here on the right-hand side. But yeah, it was just a nice little burn scar. But in terms of burn scars, they're quite devastating. They take out quite a bit of the forest, but they're actually the healthiest portions of our forest within this valley. If you look at the surrounding forest around us, it feels very healthy, very lush, very green, but the surrounding forest actually isn't that healthy. It's because these trees are really old. Our typical trees out here are the lodgepole pine and the Engelmann spruce trees. Their typical lifespan is maybe 70 to 80 years. These trees, because we've been suppressing forest fires, they're over probably 100 to over 150 years old. So that's one reason why this forest actually isn't being too healthy. And when you have so many trees, when this forest is so dense, it kind of acts like a canopy. So it doesn't really let too much sunlight reach the forest floor. So in terms of why those burn scars are the healthiest portions, they recycle the material, they open up the forest, allow sunlight to reach the forest floor, and the vegetation in there is quite diverse. Whereas in here, it's pretty much just lichen and moss. Now I know you guys came out here to see our mountains, but I also assume that people came out here to see our animals. Just from the conversation at the start of the cruise, has anyone seen any animals so far? Has anyone seen the elk so far in town? The males, they're out, they're gorgeous antlers. It's always shocking that they lose them every year, but it is pretty much the run at the moment. Has anyone seen any moose yet? No? Oh, some of you guys did. Was it here along the road? Oh, nice, nice. So for the rest of you guys on board, if you're hoping to see a moose, this is actually a very popular area to spot the moose because of a certain vegetation they like to eat. When we're back at Home Bay, if you just look off of the docks, you'll see a vegetation that kind of looks like seaweed. It's called milfoil. It's a sodium-rich plant, and like the moose absolutely adore it. It's really good for their health. It's also approaching the rut for the moose at the moment, so if you drive the road early morning or late at night, you're most likely to spot a moose. We also have a trail around Home Bay called Moose Lake Loop. It just goes to this tiny little lake that the moose also like to hang out at. Pretty much round trip, maybe an hour and 15 to an hour and a half. So that could, ooh, nice, the sun's coming up. If you want to test your luck, feel free, but it's not guaranteed. And then you have all those other animals out here, but in terms of this forest, because it's so dense, we can't sustain a large population. It's more so in those burn scar areas that more of the animals kind of frequent. But we do have everything out here. We have black bears, we have grizzly bears. Like I said, we have moose out here, we have deer, various birds of prey, bald eagles, golden eagles, osprey, various animals that just migrate through the area, like the ducks and all that. But anyways, like I mentioned earlier, at times I put down the mic just to let you guys take in the views. Before we lose sight of it, I'll first introduce these mountains. So just over here on the right-hand side, those rolling hills are known as the Bull Hills, and they're part of the Moline Mountain Range. You pretty much see it at its entirety, so it starts off in Jasper, and it's over here at Moline Lake. And then Soon enough, this mountain range on our left is going to be surrounding us almost 300